Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to Scrubs Paints 2, Part 2, Scrub Paints Terminators. First, we start off with Heavy Blue Grey from Vallejo Game Color, and you're going to want to paint this over all the armor panels while trying to avoid the armor trim. The reason I'm doing this instead of the Canary Blue I normally do for the armor is because this is a sergeant, and since it is a veteran sergeant, I decided to invert the colors for my army. I figured it would help them stand out and make them very visually striking. This color, while decently strong, over a black base will definitely need at least 2 thin coats, if not more. I did 2 or 3 depending on the area, just to make sure the color was smooth and well finished. Just take your time and make sure you get all parts of the armor, and don't worry if you get it on the trim, as we can cover it up easily later. Here's what it looks like after 1 coat and 2 coats. It's quite smooth and looks quite nice. The next color we're using is Canary Blue. You're going to want to paint this all over the trim. This will tie it in with the rest of the army and help accentuate how these are the colors of the normal armor inverted to represent that he's a special unit, the special unit character in a unit made up of veterans which already have different colors than your standard infantry. Just make your way around and be careful, though since the Heavy Blue Grey is relatively strong, it's easy to fix any mistakes, as I did. I also painted the belt buckle this color, even though it's technically not the trim. I figured it would just help tie the color scheme together. Here's a bit of it sped up as I'm painting with my hands in front of the camera, which I still have a problem with doing. You're just going to want to do this all over the armor and make sure that you do it in 2 thin coats to give the armor that nice blue candy shell finish. I also painted the trim on the boots this color. I also took the time to make sure I got any ridges or edges of the trim with this color, as to make sure that it looked complete and I didn't leave any areas looking weird and patchy. Here's what it looks like once you've painted all the trim. It's very striking, and I really like how it comes out. This is also doing 2 coats, just to make sure that the color is completely smooth. Next, I took Heavy Blue Grey again and covered up any splotchy mistakes, like I made on the left leg. Though to be honest, I didn't make that many. I made more on the torso, around all that intricate lightning bolt design. Overall, this was a little time consuming, but since it's only for veteran sergeants, I like taking the extra effort to make them stand out. I forgot a section on the leg, which is good to do. Which is obviously good to patch up, but it's good that you have these steps, as you don't have to do it when you're near the end of the paint scheme. And with that, we've finished the basic block coloring, except for the metallics. And we're on to the next step in just a moment, after I do a little bit more touch-up work. The next color we're using is Ulthwin Grey. I used this and layered it up on the topmost areas as a light highlight. It's not super noticeable until you look closely, but it does help add some nice vibrancy to the flat gray colors. I did this on the shoulder pads and on the top of the armor underneath the grenade harness. Here you can see me doing it on the other shoulder pad. I also did this on the topmost area of the gauntlets of the lightning claws, as you can see here. This again, it just helps add more visual interest to the flat gray colors, which without this would look a little bland, though not necessarily awful if you don't want to do this. I also painted it on the top of the sort of head harness area, just to make sure that all the topmost areas were a brighter color than the lower areas. From there, the next color I used was Lead Belcher. This is obviously for all the mechanical bits, mainly the lightning claws and the power pack section on the back. Just do it in one smooth coat, and it lets it dry with a very nice finish. Make sure you also paint the power pack with the Lead Belcher. As it's a mechanical section, obviously it needs to be painted like this. Next up on the paint scheme is Screamer Pink, which we use to pick out all the tassels, as it adds nice contrast. Now I actually only did one layer of Screamer Pink. You may be wondering why, since it was a bit patchy when it dried. But basically, after I did this, I covered it with a contrast paint, which you will see here in a moment. The contrast paint that we're going to use is Flesh Terror's Red, as you'll see here. This is just a very deep red that I painted all over the tassels, which gave them a nice deep red and helped shade them without having to come back around and use something like Nuln Oil. Just paint this on and let it dry for about 45 minutes, or not 45 minutes, like 20 minutes, and you'll be good to go. The next color is Abaddon Black plus Heavy Blue Gray to pick out the joints and this, well, actually just all the joints, yeah. This is quite simple. If you can see the joint, just run your paintbrush in there to give it a nice rubbery gray color. Just take your time and try not to get any on the gray, though if you do, just go back to the gray and cover it. Next up is Retributor Armor. Retributor Armor, we just use a little bit of it to pick out the skull on the crest on his chest plate. Next up is Moot Green, and this isn't as hard as it may seem, as you just run your brush into the eye lenses, which is just a long slit, and anything that spills over, you just cover with Cantor Blue. And since Cantor Blue is such a deep color, it easily covers up the light Moot Green. I did 2 coats just to make sure it was nice and vibrant. Next is Nuln Oil, and we just want to run this over the claws, the joints, and the power pack on the back. Make sure to also wash all the metal on the power pack and on the grenade harness. I wouldn't wash the armor, though if you want to give it a darker, dirtier look, you're more than welcome to. Remember, even if you watch a tutorial, I recommend you take your paint scheme your own way and develop your own style, which you'll do over time naturally. The model is just about done, just a few more finishing touches we need to lay on. And it's really only on the weapons. From here, let the wash dry completely, and then I used a bright silver, which the one I used personally was Stormhost silver, as you'll see here in a moment. I used Stormhost silver, as you saw there, to pick out the claws on the lightning claws, but only the topmost half, as to leave the bases darker and grittier. It just makes those claws really look shiny and sharp. It's a simple thing, but quite effective, and I like to do it on all models that have lightning claws, where it's feasible. From there, the model is pretty much done, and the only thing left to do is show off the finished model, after a little more touch-up if you made any more mistakes. And here's what the model looks like, all finished. It's a very eye-catching color scheme, and I think it's pretty unique. You don't see a color scheme like this very frequently. Anyways, if you liked this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all the videos I'm doing in July. See ya!